Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 1 of season 2 of the Timist Podcast Series. My name is James, and I am the Timist and the host of the thing you're currently listening to. In this very special season 2 kickoff episode, I'm happy to announce that we are now fully video capable. That's right, not only can you listen to us on your preferred podcast platform, but going forwards, you can now also see us if you're watching this on YouTube. As for this episode, Conor and I spent some time catching up and sharing with you wonderful people what we've been up to. That includes the watches that have entered our lives since we last spoke, including a Rolex, in Conor's case, as well as my very first vintage timepiece purchased from a tiny watch shop in Venice, Italy. We close things out by talking a bit about the 2 loaner watches that have landed on my wrist this year, the Maurice Lacroix Aikon Skeleton and the Christopher Ward the 12 in titanium. This is a longer episode, so no Instagram Q&A sadly, but I promise we'll be back to it in the future. Now, sit back, relax, grab a drink and a snack as we get started. Conor, we are back. Welcome to season 2 of the Timist Podcast Series. How are you?
I'm well. I'm so super excited for season 2.
Heck yeah.
This has been building for a long time. I know like a million things got in the way of us just powering into the second season, but it's made me want it even more.
Heck yeah.
The anticipation. I'm absolutely thirsting for season 2 of the Timist Podcast Series.
Let's
you
go.
can quote me on that.
That's right. Well,
Please don't.
We should probably inform everyone that is listening that now you can also watch. Not that season 1 wasn't watchable, it was. We also uploaded to YouTube, but now we actually have dedicated camera that records us while we were doing the talkies. People
were just requesting every day.
Absolutely.
They're like, look, love listening to you guys.
Yeah.
Melodic tones.
Yeah.
Just sonics are on point.
Dulcet voices.
Drop the face reveal.
Yeah.
Message every day.
Yeah.
Every day. That's actually the truth.
I had to get a P.O. box because of all the letters that were coming in.
Yeah, I was surprised you put your address out there, but,
Listen.
I was surprised how many people listened from jail.
For the passion and for the love of the hobby and the people.
And this is for the people. This is for the people.
That's right.
This is why we do this.
What an intro. Welcome to season 2. We were on hiatus for a while. I think right before this we sat down and we looked at when we uploaded the last episode, and it was July, July of 2024, and it is now December.
You gotta leave them wanting more.
That's right.
You gotta not deliver. That's the mark of a good podcast.
Leave them wanting more.
Strike while the iron is super cold, as that phrase goes.
That is it, right?
That's blacksmithing, I'm pretty sure.
That's what we're doing. So welcome, and what do we have on the agenda today? Really, it's mostly
we're catching up. We've got a lot to discuss. We're like planning out this second season, and we've got some really cool, exciting stuff and some changes coming up. Not just video, but a lot of cool things that we're really excited. But before we do that, we have to pick up where we left behind and update everybody on all the new things and all the new stuffs, and just kind of get into it.
Let you know what's up, because we know you missed us. Hopefully. Yeah, we do have a bunch of guests lined up. We have a couple format adjustments. I don't want to say changes. We're going to have additional people joining us. So this duo might turn into a trio. And also we might have some really special guests ranging from CEOs of certain watch brands, maybe some watchmakers, some restorers, some collectors. But I don't want to name them just yet because I'm still working on
I almost said the other one, but that would have been...
Which one is that?
Right.
I
guess I'm wearing a microphone that probably didn't blur it very well.
That's okay.
Experts in the industry.
I like that. Yeah. Well, good save.
Thanks.
I think we'll reveal more as things solidify and crystallize into a more real situation. Timelines, schedules, people are busy, you know how it is. But I think we've talked about it enough. Yes, we are now on video. You can listen to us, all the things and the stuffs, the YouTubes, the Spotifys, the Apple Podcasts. You know what to do. And without further ado, maybe we provide updates on what has happened to us in our watch collection since last July.
Yeah, the important stuff.
Do you want to start? Should I start?
I think we should address the surrounds.
Oh, okay. Sure. Yeah.
New studio, folks. Season 2, second studio, third season, third studio. That's how we have it planned out. Every season, new locale. We're going to go tropical. One season will be in like an Arctic kind of environment.
Where are we right now? Describe this.
Temperate?
Temperate? Okay, excellent.
Kind of cold, actually.
I didn't pay attention to social studies. I wasn't paying attention to...
Rainforest? Desert?
Arid?
Yeah.
Is that a thing? Tundra?
Oh, yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, tundra season coming soon.
Am I thinking about Zoo Tycoon and the various biomes? That's what it is, probably. Yeah, no, you're right. Sorry. I moved. In July, I moved. That was the last episode that I published, was episode 10 of season 1. And then I packed up everything with my wife, and we moved to a different city and a different abode. And that also meant that we were able to build a dedicated sort of office/recording studio for the things that we do in relation to watches.
10,000 square foot studio. We are in it now.
You're doing it again.
No.
You're doing it again.
If we zoomed out,
cavernous.
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 Absolutely.
I can touch...
Like cathedral ceilings.
People can't see because it'll be cropped, but I can almost touch that wall. Cavernous. This isn't the Batcave. But thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you like it. And
it's a lovely place.
Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, that's the big changes. Actually, in some of the future episodes that we might be doing remotes, I like to call them remotes, where we're not all in the same spot. People might see a different angle of this space, specifically that wall there, which I worked really hard to build out, and I kind of want to tease right now. So if you're listening to the podcast, I apologize. But if you're watching, I apologize once again, because you still can't see it because it's cropped. But, you know, all things in due time, yes?
Yeah. It's mostly samurai swords, but I think people are going to appreciate that.
They're gonna think I'm Steven Seagal or something. There are no samurai
like
swords.
Steven Seagal if he bought his swords at the mall, which he probably does.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Apologies to all Steven Seagal fans. Are there any?
I hope not.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Watches. Right? I mean, things have changed since July.
Yeah, we've both gotten new watches.
That's true.
Some of us a whole bunch. Some of us this one.
But what? But tell me about what's on your wrist right now. Yeah.
I was able to secure a Rolex. I got an Oyster Perpetual 41 millimeter with the green dial, and I am in love with it.
It looks fantastic on you.
Thank you. You know, so every few years you're able to purchase a watch as an authorized dealer from the brand. You don't buy it from inventory.
Yeah, how does that work exactly? Because I don't think anybody, obviously if they're not an AD, they have no idea what that works.
Sure. So I guess it is, I always want to say that it's not purchased from inventory, and mostly that's because we never take from what's going to clients. It's always that's coveted stuff. Don't pull from there. We're not able to buy those watches, which is fine. But essentially there's a couple kind of characteristics you need to meet, requirements involving where you work and how long you work there and that kind of stuff. Obviously a Rolex door, as it were, and all that. And you sort of request the watch from Rolex, you fill out some paperwork, and it gets approved by certain people in our company, and then it goes to Rolex, and they say yay or nay, sort of thing.
So, in theory, they could say, no, you can't have this one?
They do say no, yes.
Oh.
That's normal. And it's not, I was expecting there to be a big list, all these yes, all these no.
Some maybes.
So you are kind of throwing it out there and just sort of crossing fingers. But what was actually really cool about the process is interacting with the Rolex employees who are on that side of the thing, and they made me look bad. And by that I mean they're so good at their job.
I'm like, what do you mean?
So literally, the watch shows up, I'm happy and I'm just so pleased with it. 2 days later, 48 hours, written letter signed by the person at Rolex who sent it, thanking me and welcoming me to the family and all this.
Wow.
Super cool. And
and
I should be doing that. That's what I'm supposed to be doing.
This is a personalized letter.
Yeah.
Wow.
About personalized, with of course my name and the watch I purchased and all this kind of stuff, and very it's meaningful when someone handwrites, and it wasn't handwritten, it was typed, but writes you a letter and signs it, and it was not just it was like, obviously it's very cool to get the watch, and like I said, I'm very happy with it.
Yeah.
I'm so happy with it that I have to consciously say, reach for another watch. You don't need to, the new toy, right? Oh, well, my watch box, I'm like, well, all right, I wore that last 5 days. Okay, I should probably, which is a good feeling. I'm
it's a good problem.
Blessed to have that problem.
Totally.
But, they're like customer service in a sense. I don't know if it's customer service, but the way they interact with you and the way everything comes together is just really impressive. And it was in fact inspiring to me as someone who is, frequently selling watches to people, that like, dang, they're good at this. It's easy to put any brand in a box and say like, they do this, right? Whatever this is.
Yeah.
$200 watches, $200,000 watches, this is what they do. But they are often much bigger than that, especially in the way they think of the people who buy their watches and want to interact with them. And they want people like myself, an authorized dealer, to also act that way. And so seeing it in action, I was like, that's good. That's good.
So they talk the talk, they walk the walk, they basically lead by example.
Yeah, and
like,
especially
this is what the experience should be.
Absolutely. And like, not to be crass, but like, they didn't need to. In that, like, I had already given them the money.
Yeah.
And it's not like I can repeat, like I'm going to do another one and another one and another one, or I would be like, we should buy your watches from Rolex, like.
Really?
Yeah. So it was a very inspirational, just from like my perspective of how I do my job of like, wow, they're really good at this.
And at this point, I mean, you've been doing it for how
long? It's been like over 2 years now.
And for those that have just joined us that don't really know Conor, what is it that you do?
I am an authorized dealer for a host of different watch brands. I also do jewelry. And Rolex is one of those brands, which is why I was able to purchase a watch and interact with the brand that way. One of the things that was really crazy is, this isn't crazy, you send them a check, which felt weird, but send them a check. And the day they cashed the check, the Rolex was in my store the next day, engraved with stickers on it.
Okay, so that is pretty cool.
I don't understand that. I'm literally.
I'm just now envisioning.
They cashed the check, and like the watch came from the East Coast to where we are on the West Coast.
Yeah. In
less than a day, and they engraved it. So, because if the check bounced, right? It's a check.
Right. Old school.
Was it just like on the machine, ready to go? Oh, okay, it's in the account, and then they ship it out?
Well, I like to imagine, because I know the location where you're at, I would like to imagine that there was a Rolex rep, black suit, tie, white shirt, shades on, just watching, right when the watch arrived, like as it was being delivered, and then they, did one of these and raised their hand up to their earpiece and said, cash it, it's here. And that's what I'd like to imagine. But you also said something.
What happened? Yeah.
Like you said, engraved. Was that like a sentimental thing, or like? Tell me about that.
So it's not uncommon for watch brands beyond just Rolex when you purchase from the brand. Like I mentioned, this watch was not out of inventory. It was.
So again, to like recap, you work at an AD. You have multiple brands.
Yes.
If you want to watch, you can't just be like, "Ooh, I'm going to take that one from the case. Here's money. Thank you so much."
For the most part, there are certain watch brands that you can do that from, especially when inventory and there's not a fear of like reselling or profiteering on that one. Like my G-Shock that I love, I was able to purchase from inventory.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Could special order it, say if it wasn't in stock. Like, oh, this is the one I want. We don't have it. We could have ordered it. But for the most part, yeah. Especially when it's, watches that there isn't, 50 Mark 20 blue dial IWCs. There's enough, but if employees buy them, then what are we doing? Because we're supposed to be selling these.
Right.
Things.
It's also kind of weird if I show up and I'm like, I'd really like a Mark 20 blue dial, and you're like, oh, I'm so sorry, we're all out. As you like, do
great
one
watch
of these.
though. Great watch though.
Just like brush your eyebrow and flash the blue one.
Yeah. That is, and I think that's why I mentioned about the. There's certain watches you can buy from brands like Rolex and certain ones you can't. And I think that's actually good for that exact reason. If you came in and say, hey man, that Panda Daytona, that's my grail watch. I super want it. And I'm like, oh man, we don't really get a lot of those. Like I'm happy to help out, but could be a long wait. And I'm wearing the watch. You reach and my coworker's wearing the watch, and my other coworker's wearing the watch. That would be strange messaging.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
100%.
I think in that scenario. So yeah, it's not unusual to for the companies to engrave the watch for you just on the case back, and they have a selection of different fonts, and you can kind of choose. I assume whatever. I mean, maybe they'd cut you off, but I assume do whatever you want with it.
This isn't something that, I would imagine it's something that is offered as an option to certain clients if they want to engrave their watches. But for employees or AD members, it sounds like that's not an option.
It's a requirement.
It's a requirement.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's supposedly, to kind of be like, no, you're not, this is going to be your watch.
I assume that's at least a flavor of it. They don't explicitly state, because it's like, I suppose if you really wanted to sell a watch, you can still sell it if it's engraved. True. Right? Like, true, it's not like that becomes like, now you can't.
Yeah.
But I would assume that's a part of it. Yeah.
I would also, I'm an optimist, so I like to believe that it's, you get that typed but very personalized letter.
Absolutely.
Plus, it's a requirement to get it engraved. It's sort of like this is your time. This is something special for you. You work in this industry. We want to do something special, very unique, very personalized for you. And that is letter, watch. Oh, you have to send a check because it's 1987.
Yeah, right. Fax a check.
And it's going to be engraved. And it is very tailored to the individual of like, this is truly, it's like, this is my gun. There's no other gun like it.
Yeah.
Like, you've handled many watches, you've sold many watches, but this watch, this is your watch.
Yeah. And I'm really the engraving is great. They did a good job. I'm really happy with it. I don't not losing any sleep over it. And I actually think especially on a Rolex, a case engraving is perfect because there's very little on the back of that watch.
Unless it's a sea dweller.
Sure, that's and that's also hard to engrave, titanium.
Yep.
But yeah, and for example, IWC watches, they also have you engraved, but frequently, it's an open case back, and there's quite a lot, so you're really only able to do initials, because often it's if you have the open case back, and then you have the steel or whatever around that, it's 10 bar, Swiss made, 17 jewels, all that kind of stuff. So you don't really have as much room, and it's different in that the engraving is done by a different person on a different machine, so it looks different. It doesn't look bad, but it's just if you have your initials or your name there, it's gonna look different than all the other writing, whereas Rolex is a relatively empty case back, so it sits nicely and it'll last the test of time.
Thank you for that. Now feel free to say no. Do you want to share what you got engraved?
No.
Excellent. I respect that.
And not because it's embarrassing or whatever. It's just a personal kind of thing, and I it's the case back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's yours. No one will see it.
It's for me, and I'm happy with that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I dig it. So, Oyster Perpetual.
Yeah.
41.
So, I'd like to a little bit explain my choice here.
Yes, please.
Because obviously I could have, well, maybe not obviously, but I could have purchased maybe a more expensive or, in some people's eyes, more prestigious watch. I could have maybe got a Batman or, I
mean, the world is almost your oyster.
Almost.
But you went for the oyster.
Yeah.
So
this is true.
Dive into that a little bit. Can I shove in more puns?
Probably. Definitely. So I really like the fit of this watch. You know me, I'm not a big watch guy. I'm pretty sensitive to size. I'm not a small-wristed individual necessarily, but the Datejust 41 has much longer lugs, has a much, in my opinion, much more, how would I phrase this? It has a bigger wrist presence, right? Both because of the longer lugs, often with a Jubilee bracelet and a fluted bezel. It's a lot of look, which I like, but I wanted something that I could wear, when I, wear a suit to work or whatever, but also, the rest of my life as well. You know, I didn't want to, sometimes when you go a bit more, it becomes more situational.
Yeah.
Obviously people wear their watches in all situations, and I rarely think I'm like, look at this guy at the grocery store with his Cellini on, like, what a clown. Like, no, it's fine. It looks cool. But just kind of fit the scenario.
For your own little like microcosm of space, like for you to feel like you're yourself.
And like as I saw like the state of my collection, what I felt like was going to be most appropriate.
So you did do like a recap, a sort of evaluation of what I have, and what would make sense.
I wanted something a little more casual, a little more fun. I could get the green dial. It's a bit of a more bright and like in that sense fun color. Green has like a big personal connection to me as an Irish person, and I just like the color, you know what I mean? Like I both like, there's like, you know, kind of cultural ties to enjoying it, you know, here we are in the evergreen state, right? But I just like it. You know what I mean? Like it's like when purchasing anything, I feel like, especially like watches and jewelry, it's like all these statistics are super important. It is important to know, or it can be important to know, like the beat frequency and the accuracy and the lug width and all that. At the end of the day, you just have to like it. You just have to say, I like the way that looks and I want to wear that watch. And that's what this was for me. You know, here was, because I really agonized over it. I know we talked about it a few times. Like, I don't know what to get. What should I do? Like, I really want to act on this, but you know, should I go for like a GMT that's well over $10,000? Like, that would be a really good thing, and that's so popular. And GMTs are great. You know, like that functionality with the date and the other hour hand, like so cool. You know, ceramic bezel, all that. I ended up going much more simple and less, and by that I mean less complicated. Like there's fewer complications. It's a time only watch,
right?
You know,
there's no date even, so it's
and it's kept in with my accidental watch collection path of having no dates and no open case backs. So I've maintained that.
Oh, because your Cellini is time only.
Time only.
Right.
The Black Bay 58 time only.
Right.
I mean, the Speedmaster's chronograph, but there's no date, and it's the Hesselite, so there's no open case back. I didn't intend that, but now I'm sticking with it, and so I was telling you that...
Don't pigeonhole yourself into something.
No, I'm happy with where I'm at, and then I know at the end of this road, whatever my epic grail is, big display case back and a huge date, you know, just like a massive date, like, almost like double-digit bad boys. And just like no steel or whatever on the back. It's like a whole viewing window.
Right.
That'll be the final stop on the journey.
It's a wrist-worn pocket watch. Got it.
Yeah.
That's really cool, actually. First off, congratulations.
Thank you.
And well done.
You can clean it.
It's fine. It looks great. It looks fantastic on your wrist. I think it's the perfect size. But at the end of the day, you have to love it. You have to be happy with it. So if all those ingredients fell in the right spot and really ticked all the boxes for you, I mean, that's the most important thing.
Yeah. I've been so over the moon with it, like more than I even thought I was. And that was like after I'd written the check, you know, so I'm buying this watch, like it's happened. I sent the check out, right? Even then I was, you know, like excited, but somehow I wasn't like fully vested until it showed up. And then like I wore it, and like, you know, like there's certain thing about the weight and the feel and the look, and I've just been so happy with it.
Which is fascinating, because how many Oyster Perpetual 41 mil green dial watches have you handled so far? I
mean, quite a few for sure, but it's different because you don't overly handle a watch like that.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, check it out. Oh, it looks really good.
Yeah.
Maybe put it on, you know, it depends, but not really. You know, the QC and all that, but generally you're not like wearing it around town and showing it off to everybody when it's not, when it's, you know, a client's watch who hasn't picked it up yet or whatever.
Yeah. That'd be very weird.
Yeah. And of course it wasn't like they were fitted either. Like, you know, sometimes you wear a watch, but it's not fit to you. It's, it's just something different.
You're telling me, you know how I like to wear my watches.
Yeah, like a chokehold.
Well, I just don't want them to go anywhere. Be one with a watch.
Yeah, you are always saying that.
Yeah, that's
true.
Right. Every day. But yeah, no, I mean, it's different handling a watch in, you know, on location in store with a client.
Usually with a glove.
Usually, yeah, exactly. and you're not putting it on, and you're not wearing it.
Yeah.
Versus having, quote, your watch show up.
Yeah.
Having written a check for it, sending it out, having it arrived, having it being engraved, all that stuff, and then add in the mileage that you get with it on your wrist, and like the connection or the bonds that you form over time while doing your day-to-day stuff, and how it makes you feel when you put it on for the first time, how it makes you feel when you put it on when you're wearing a suit versus like some casual clothes, going to an event, just having a chill Saturday, whatever the case is. It's just a different bonding experience when it is indeed your watch, even though you may have handled 10, 20, 30 of the exact same watch previously, because this is not those watches. This is your watch.
Yeah. So super happy with it. I wouldn't change a thing. I love all my watches, but this one is like definitely right now is like definitely a clear favorite, and I think in like every way.
How long has it been now since you've had it? Just curious because, the honeymoon phase is a thing.
4 months, I want to say.
4?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you still prefer to go for this one versus anything else in your watch box for now?
Yeah.
So you actively fight it?
Yeah. Yeah. I have to consciously, I want to put something else on today. Okay. And not that I don't like those watches, far from it. But, it's newer and
I get it.
It's got some fun.
I get it, believe me.
Yeah.
Believe me. I think a lot of people can associate and relate with this sentiment.
I think that's what we're chasing. That new watch high of just like, oh, this feels so good. I'm so happy it's on my wrist right now.
Yeah.
You want that feeling again and again and again.
Well, yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I wouldn't have agreed with you so completely were it not for the watches that have entered my life this year.
Yeah.
And, is this a good segue?
I think so.
All right. So I, since July, have added a few watches to the collection. And I have a list here so that I don't forget.
A list so he doesn't forget.
I know that
this
sounds
guy.
extremely...
It's like 6 pages long.
It's not. It's not. So we talked about, we moved, right? The new studio that we built out. I won a watch. I won a watch from a watch raffle, which is one of those things that you're like, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I figured they're just like Instagram scams or whatever.
Right. But it happens, apparently. And
happened to you.
It happened to me. It happened to me earlier. So actually, I will say from where. Alvin Goldfarb, which is a local authorized dealer. I think they have jewelry as well and watches. They had an event in collaboration with Oris, and I think it's something that they've done at least the last 2 years.
The Airstream.
With the Airstream,
yeah.
Right. However, they also pair it with a local horse polo, not water polo, event.
Oh, water polo with seahorses?
No. Although, fair point. I need to clarify. Land horse polo.
Oh, land horse polo.
Yeah, the animals that are really, really big and pull carriages and also are used to describe the amount of power that your engine can produce. Those kind of horses, not seahorses.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Thanks for bringing that up.
No problem. Thanks for bringing it up. So they partner with a local events committee, I think, that do a lot of polo stuff. And Oris was one of the main sponsors, along with a few others like Aston Martin and some other brands from all walks of the industry. And I attended with my wife, and they had a raffle.
When aren't you at a polo event, though?
That was
like every weekend.
Sure.
You're always swinging a mallet from horseback.
Polo event every weekend if they have a sale on shirts. Yes, maybe. But even then, it's got to be a really good sale. But no. Literally the first time we've ever been to anything like this, and we got invited, and we're like, yeah, let's do it. So we dressed nicely. We went to the event, saw some stuff, did some things, shot some video. Had a pretty good time. And then, they had the raffle, filled out the information, and then a couple of months later, I get a message that I was the lucky winner. And they had 2 watches up for raffle, and the one that I got, again, big surprise. I did not expect this ever because this stuff just never happens. I don't think it does, but apparently it does.
It does.
It's an Oris Divers 65, the cotton candy, the light blue cotton candy, in stainless steel.
Oh yeah, because there's also a bronze model.
Right, and they initially came out with a pink cotton candy and the light blue cotton candy in bronze.
Yeah.
And now this was the stainless steel variant, and I love it. Like it's beautiful. It's one of those colors that, much like Flavia's OP, in the, I don't want to say Tiffany blue because it's not, but it's officially called the turquoise.
Yeah.
As you know. Every time I see that dial, it legitimately puts a smile on my face. Like the color makes me feel happy.
Yeah.
Which is, again, not something that I think I would have believed in if someone was like, this color makes you feel good. Like, chill, dude, relax. It's just a color. Actually, it makes a difference. So the Oris Diver 65 blue cotton candy is a more bluer shade of that light blue, so it's not quite like the turquoise.
Yeah.
But now, I can kind of match you with her when she wears hers. Like,
you guys love that. It's so cute.
Yeah. So that was the watch, the first new addition into the collection.
And the 65 is great because it has those vintage vibes.
Yeah.
But the one you have with that blue dial is very modern, and it in my opinion, it like rides that line really well.
Yeah.
It's not like too vintagey. Not that there's too vintagey, but like it's somewhat modern, but somewhat vintage. Like a lot of the dive watches we love, like Black Bays and Submariners that also have like these vintage elements of the 60s and the 50s, and then paired with kind of modern styling, modern bracelet. That's a very modern dial color to me, and I really like that. I think it looks beautiful.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Perfect size. I think it's 38 millimeters if I'm not mistaken. It's got a rotating bezel, so I can time things with it. It is a diver, after all.
It has a date, right?
It does have a date, and screw down crown, of course. I don't know. It was just unexpected, and it was such an awesome and lovely surprise, and I just really happy with it. Over the moon, and I wear it fairly frequently. And again, I will be in meetings, and I will stare down, and I will just get a smile on my face just because of the dial color, which is just a thing that I would have been like, that's not a thing. It is a thing.
It's a thing.
It's a thing. So that was the first new arrival in the watch box. The second arrival was, it was happenstance. It was a good friend of mine. His name is Adam. And he had told me previously that he was on the market to purchase a car. And I jokingly texted him, so does that mean that you need to sell some watches? Jokingly.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
100%.
You weren't drooling over his watches at all.
I was drooling over his watches, but I wasn't texting him to see if he was selling his watches. It was like a joke. Okay. But it did lead to something.
LOL, JK.
Yeah, well, that was included. LOL, JK. I was that was included actually. And he's like, actually, I am trying to sell some watches. And one of them was one of the, this. I had 3 watches on my future purchase
one you've
list.
been drooling over for a long time.
Yeah, and I'm so sorry for all the drool that I've left on the
We're used to it.
Counter.
Counter cleans up.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Tudor Black Bay 58 925. Right. Full silver, actual silver case.
Big chunk of silver.
Yeah.
Taupe from werewolves.
Dial. Yeah, well.
Vampires?
Werewolves, I think.
Yeah.
It's not October anymore.
No, doesn't mean there's no werewolves.
That's true. You can never be too careful in this tundra. Did we say we're in the tundra season now? Yeah. So He was more than happy to sell me his wonderful 925 because he knew it was coming to me and he could see it in the future, and he gave me a great price on it.
Come visit it.
And he would come visit, and I've seen him while wearing the watch, and that just worked out for the best for both of us. Like he wanted to sell the watch, and I was in the market specifically for that watch, and so it happened. And that was the very first quote unquote used watch that I ever purchased. So that was the very first one.
Did you go NATO or leather on it? I can't remember.
So thankfully he has both.
Oh.
So it came with box and papers,
the
leather strap, the NATO strap. And when you said that you had a hard time taking this off or choosing anything else over it, when the 925 joined the collection, I legitimately, kid you not, I wore it for 2 weeks straight. I don't sleep with my watches.
Yeah.
I slept with that watch on.
Did you really?
I did. I only took it off when I showered.
That's smart.
That's it.
Silver's not great for that.
I mean, I want it to patina, and it has a little bit of patina on it on the outer edges of the lugs. Mm-hmm. It's more like this very light honey golden hue, which, as you know, you can remove if you want to. But I'm just curious and keen to see how it'll patina over time.
Yeah.
I've seen some units be almost gunmetal black. Granted, the owner of that specific model went to some spa that had a bunch of minerals and what have you, and he wore it.
Usually the black ones have been, I don't want to say tampered with, but like something has been done
a little
outside
extra
of the
norm. It's not just sweat and water and whatever. Yeah. It looked cool.
Yeah.
But I wore that watch straight for 2 weeks, only taking it off when I showered, and I loved it. And I wear it on the NATO, and it is comfortable and awesome. It's 39 mil, screw down crown, of course, no date, taupe dial, diver bezel, of course. So I've actually timed things with it. It is so cool. And I saw my cousin for, it was his birthday a couple weeks ago, and I wore it, and I think I talked to you about him. He's kind of just entering the watch market. He just turned 21. So he's, been asking me questions, and he's been watching videos and reading and learning about watches. And he's like, I think I want my first, adult watch to be a Rolex. And I'm like, well, that's like, you're kind of trying to like express pass. You're trying to like Disney, whatever system they have nowadays to like jump the line, and you're trying to go big from the get-go. And I think you need to kind of learn a bit more, like get your mileage in, get your experience in, like see what you like, see what you don't like. I think there's a lot of the aura associated with this initial sort of gut reaction decision. And then when I saw him 2 weeks ago, I was wearing the 925, and he's like, what is that? Is that a Rolex? I'm like, no, it's not a Rolex. Let me explain.
In 1920.
Yeah. Sit down, grab a seat. That's exactly what I told him. I was like, he wanted to create a brand that was a bit more approachable and affordable, but still had high quality components. And he's like, oh, good, I can see it because it kind of looks like a Rolex. I'm like, well, you have the hour markers, and you can see the DNA, you can see the inspiration there. He's like, well, how much is that? Well, again, the 925 is
much less.
A lot less than a Submariner equivalent, right? But he kind of fell in love with it, and it's it's a beautiful watch.
Yeah.
I mean, on how many lists that people have created online of like the perfect watch, like the Black Bay 58 is without a shadow of a doubt more likely than not going to be on one of those lists as the watch. Like you'll have the Speedmaster, the Black Bay 58, and on and on and on.
Sure. And not to go too tangential off what you just said, but I also don't really recommend a Rolex as a first, big boy watch, whatever you want to call them. Not because they don't make for good watches. That's obviously not true. I just feel like there are certain parts of a Rolex that you appreciate because you've had and handled and owned and wore other watches. And you don't have to go like, first you get a Casio and then you get a Seiko and then you're in this increment, and people do that and they enjoy it. Nor do I think it's like a money thing even necessarily. Like, I mean, it kind of is, but like it's just like I feel like some of the more subtle touches that make Rolex owning really enjoyable could be lost. And I also feel like it sometimes happens when someone kind of jumps straight to Rolex that everything that costs less now feels less than to them. Like, well, I don't really want a Tudor. I don't really want a whatever, put in an Oris or whatever have you. Because I think they conflate like dollar and brand recognition to good. Yeah. And Rolex is really good. But it doesn't mean that something that costs less is necessarily bad or worse. Yeah. It's a different market. Yeah. It's a $10,000 watch and a $3,000 watch. Those aren't directly comparable watches because one is significantly more money. Yeah. You know, like, I mean, a Rolex, even a Oyster Perpetual or what have you at a lower price point is like a watch collection at some point, you know, like exactly. If you're buying a 41, it's $6,400 and then tax on top of that, you're well into $7,000 in most places. And that's fine to spend that money, but you might enjoy it more. Like, I would also say, like, and not that many people, including you or I, were ever in this situation, but like, maybe your first car shouldn't be like a Mercedes, BMW, Jaguar. Yep. It doesn't need to be whatever the, you know, Orient equivalent of a car is. No shade against Orient. Sure, I think they're good watches, but I just mean like, you know, I mean, you know, when you had that kind of crummy radio and you had to roll the window and your AC didn't work great and the back kind of fogged up. Then when you do have your whatever, the other car that is of this next level, you're like, oh my, this is amazing. Did you see how good like, I remember like when I got the BMW, I'm like, the roof is suede, you know what I mean? Like, and that's not like a relevant part of the car. I'm really rarely ever like, dang, I love this suede roof. But because my previous car was like a Civic, I really appreciated it, you know? Like, I love this sound system because the other one I had was only okay, and you know, and then a tape deck, right? Like it is a growth situation. But I think it's like food is a great analogy to this. Like, it's just a different dish, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with having you know, a standard cheeseburger from like McDonald's or whatever. Like, it's good in its own way. Like, I appreciate that. And any day of the week, if someone's like, do you want to get Mickey D's? I'm like, absolutely. I mean, I shouldn't, but absolutely, right? Like, Mickey D's, fries, chicken nuggets, sweet and sour sauce, let's go. So it's good in its own way, right? But also, you know, you appreciate other foods and other things for different reasons. I think watches are like that as well. It's like, you don't need to, you know, it's not like I'm going to take off this Patek and put on an AP later, and then from there I'll just go to a VC, and from there I'll go to like a classic Breguet or something. Like, I've gone from like a Citizen to my G-Shock to the Snoopy to the Pepsi to the Seagull, right? Like, it's different flavors for different situations, and you kind of have to sample and like do the mileage and do the time with the pieces to understand and appreciate them all. Absolutely. And to know that they all have their own like place in the world and in people's watch collection. Yeah. And you appreciate the watches for what they are. Totally. Right? Totally. The Mickey D's works good because it's everywhere and it's real fast. And you know what you're getting. And you know it's very consistent. And in that same thing, you know, like Orient Bambino, that's an awesome watch. Cute Teddy Balthazar. At the price it's at, though, right? Teddy. And you'll appreciate that, what it does and what it is at the price it is. Totally. And you'll appreciate other things at different price ranges 100%. And different qualifications. 100%, without a doubt. So yeah, he was super smitten by the Black Bay 15925. So that might be something that might be in his future. Who knows? He's saving up for it, and I'm rooting for him. But that was a nice experience. And yeah, so the Oris Diver 65, Con Candy Blue, and the Tudor Black Bay 58925 on NATO. Amazing shots on this guy's Instagram channel. That's not even a plug so much as it. Those watches look really good, and those macros are kick-ass. Thank you. Very kind of you to say. I don't think I'm that good. Oh, okay. In that case, disregard. Thank you. Also, I think, no, that doesn't, wait. Oh, yeah, actually. Another thing that happened is we went on a trip that we've been kind of saving up for and planning for quite some time. Yeah, you and I went on that trip together. Right.
Did you enjoy it?
It was fun. We planned it for so long.
You had a good time. Good. I'm so happy to hear. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It's the trip that my wife and I planned.
Right, that one.
To Italy. So actually, this is a twofer because it kind of leads into the other topic that I want to go over, which is a travel companion watch.
Oh.
But I'll get to that eventually. I'll give you the cliff notes. So we had planned this Italy trip for a couple of years now. And this fall, we actually went on the trip, middle of October. And we were going to do, and we did do Milan, and then Venice, and then Florence, and then we would wrap things up in Rome.
The greatest hits.
I mean, it's sort of like, what's the Italian place?
Tour of Italy?
Tour of Italy, that's what it is. Well, I mean, there's so many other spots in between that you can visit.
You could have gone to the Amalfi Coast or Sicily or something.
Right, well.
But it's a big country. There's a lot to see.
And yeah, I mean, doing it all in one go is nigh impossible.
It'd be exhausting.
So we did do that, but almost immediately at the start of the trip, basically almost like the moment we landed, I was hit with this want, this desire, this inner idea that wouldn't it be great if we found a vintage watch that we could sort of immortalize this trip and just kind of distill it down into one watch to be like, oh, do you remember this watch? We got this watch when we were in Italy.
Yeah, that's super cool.
And I wanted something that wasn't too expensive because the Italy trip in and of itself was expensive.
Sure.
And so I figured like a vintage watch, because also I don't have a vintage watch.
This is true.
So that was sort of the homework. That was sort of the want, the desire. I had expressed this to Flavia. She was down. She was happy for it. But now it was a matter of finding a watch. And also we have a very, like, I'm a producer by trade in video game industry, and Flavia is an executive admin. So we're both very sort of organized, calculated people. So of course we had a very robust itinerary every single day.
There were spreadsheets.
There was
slide decks.
There was a Google doc.
There were meeting notes.
Yeah.
There were notes in those notes.
Color coordinated.
Of course.
There was a legend at the top.
Obviously.
Okay. All right. You know, you say what you say, but it comes in really handy.
I expect there to be that anyways.
And so it was a matter of trying to find quality stores that actually sold, watches that weren't crap, and had a wide,
You have watches that aren't crap? No, I'm afraid we don't, sir. Sorry.
Not here. Luckily, we found one at the suggestion of Oshin. Because I knew he lived in Venice. Mm-hmm. So I'd messaged him and he was kind enough to reply back. And he recommended this place called Frollo Gioleria, which translates to, Frollo Jewelry.
Oh.
Yeah, I speak Italian.
Yeah, no, I can tell.
Thank you. I actually...
Tell me about the store. I'm very curious. I haven't heard this part of it.
So we were walking down the narrow pathways of Venice. We found the place. Adorable. Everything in Italy is really like petite, demure, small, very, very mindful. Oh. Can I add more of the
let it die.
Signature words?
Let that meme die.
It was a very small storefront. It had a window display with some select pieces in there, but it was so small, in fact, that there were two people inside, and the gentleman that was working with them just did a quick little, like, please just momentito, just 1 second, and because there's people here and it's kind of a tight spot.
Oh, like you couldn't physically go inside?
Correct.
Oh.
I mean, I could have, but then it would have made the whole setup kind of cramped.
Bull in the china shop.
A little bit. I'm not a big dude, but also it was a couple, and
you can see the video. We're the same size.
Okay, we are not the same size. So I was like, yeah, no problem. I kind of gesticulated. I was like, yeah, stayed out there, waited for my turn. The couple left. He
waved me, and I walked in, and he was just an absolute joy. I found out later that he, Tommaso is his name, he is a 24-year-old watchmaker. His father, they're essentially...
He was only 24?
He was only 24.
That's awesome.
Watchmaker, trained in Switzerland.
Cool. That's young for a watchmaker too.
I know.
Oh,
I know.
wow.
I mean, it speaks to his passion and his drive for the craft. His father inherited Frollo Gioieria from his father. He's essentially 6th generation, which is just...
That's so cool.
Magical.
That's super cool.
He, I told him I'm looking for a vintage watch to kind of commemorate my trip to Italy, and I told him that Oshin had recommended him, and he's like, they call him Sean because Oshin is hard, so they call him Sean. He's like, we know Sean, we've worked with him before, he's a great guy, and that just kind of started a whole conversation, and he's like, come in the back. And I was like, there's more to this? Like, this place is very small. He's like, yeah, I just walked down these tiny stairs, and there was his watch workshop.
Cool.
His, polishing machine and his watchmaker's the bench and everything, yeah. And
elbow height bench.
Exactly, yeah. Well, which I know all about now because I did the whole watchmaker.
You did,
so
yes, you're a watchmaker.
Thank you. Uh-huh. We'll talk some more about that in a different episode. He showed me, watches that he's currently working on. He showed me some beautiful, beautiful, like vintage Pateks that were just not even close, and not even in the same zip code as far as like budget is concerned, right?
Yeah, like we can get this one if we leave tomorrow, and they refund everything we bought. Yeah,
not even.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Not
fair
even.
Enough. Yeah.
We're talking like 20 plus.
Okay.
And he showed me his grandfather's pocket watch, this beautiful, beautiful gold piece. And he was beaming with positivity and love for the craft and the hobby and everything.
I love that.
You could feel it in every single word that came out of his mouth. This is his life. It's not a thing that he has to do. It's a thing that he wants to do.
Yeah.
So much so that he actually said that Rolex had offered him, to find him a place in Switzerland and provide him with a substantial salary.
Watchmakers are a vital commodity, and they are in need.
As you know,
anyone, especially skill and passion and being young, I'm sure he's turned down many job offers.
I will have him on the podcast, and I will be speaking with him more in depth because I want to.
I'm assuming with
of
like
course,
subtitles.
Of course, prego. Si. Thank you. I will have him on the podcast, hopefully. But I just want to share his story because he was just so moving and so passionate. And he turned down that offer because he wanted to come back to his home in Venice and bring watchmaking to Venice and have it be like he wants to continue the Frollo Gioieria tradition from his father. So we hit it off. He's amazing. Love the guy. And I was like, love all this. However, do you have something that I think will like
like a bottom shelf?
Yeah, just a little
like, I love the top shelf, but I'm thinking like a while drink.
How do I say this is expensive as is the trip? So something less than 1,000.
Yeah.
So I point at this beautiful, beautiful Longines that caught my eye from the moment I actually walked in the shop. And it is the Longines Conquest. And the thing that grabbed me was the fact that the date complication is at the 12 o'clock position, which you've seen it. I've shown it to you. Is uncommon, at least for me.
It is.
It's 3 o'clock, 4:30, or 6.
Yep.
Sometimes 9.
Yeah, sometimes.
But 12 is kind of like a what? So he brings it out, shows it to me, tells me a bit about it, and best as they can estimate, it's a model that was between 1986 and 1989.
Could be a birth year watch.
Well, not quite.
It couldn't.
Not quite for me.
Maybe could be a little bit after your birth year.
A little bit
watch.
after my birth year watch, yeah.
It's someone's birth year. So it could be a birth year watch.
I believe so. He gave me a great deal on it. He was a sweetheart. I bought it on the spot. He was like, do you like the strap? It was on this gray alligator strap.
What color is the dial again?
So the dial on the watch is silver with gold hour markers.
Yeah, that's right.
Day complication at 12. Hesselite crystal. It's got a closed case back, but it does have a beautiful gold medallion. Very much in the spirit of like the Omega Constellation, but Longines.
Yeah, Longines does it on some watches still, on the flagship.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Again, fell in love with it. He asked me about the strap. I was like, well, I think it's beautiful, but I don't know. I think a black one would work better. And he's like, I got just the thing for you. And mind you, we already like did the whole price thing. He's like, I'm going to get you, like when you walk out of this place, you're going to love it. You're going to be happy. And I'm going to do all the things necessary to make sure that happens. So he busts out this like strap case holder thing that was sort of like Willy Wonka-ish, in that it just kept unfolding like more and more. And I was like, there's no way there's, 12 more straps. Oh, yes, there are. And then he did it again. And there was just
That's cool.
like over 50 straps in front of me. And he goes, which one do you like?
Oh, cool.
And I picked one. I was like, that's black crocodile. And I'd be happy to put it on for you. Not inexpensive, no. So he put it on for me. By the way, the clasp, the pin buckle on the watch, original.
Cool.
Everything's original on the watch,
nice.
Except for the strap. And it's never been polished. Not that is a important thing for me, but I mean,
so cool.
The watch is in such a great condition. It's like whoever bought it, and then they put it in a drawer, and then they just left it there.
Weirdly common. It happens a lot.
I'm thankful for it.
Hey, they were saving it for you.
They were saving it for me.
For 40 years.
Almost. Hey, now. It's not that old.
400 years.
Oh, my goodness. Lovely, lovely human. Had an amazing time. So that entered the watch box. So I now have a vintage watch that I can tie directly to our Italy trip. It's beautiful.
Cool.
I love it. I've worn it frequently. I actually wore it all throughout Italy, but that wasn't the only watch that I wore on the trip to Italy. There was one other one.
Can I ask you a question before you tell me about the
Absolutely.
other watch? When you were thinking about and considering buying a vintage watch,
Yeah.
were you nervous?
I was.
Can you like kind of talk me through that and what the emotions were and how you became at some point obviously like good with the decision enough to do it, and now you own it, so obviously you did it.
Yeah, so no, great question. With vintage watches, obviously.
Great question.
I mean, just come on, Conor.
It's a great question.
I mean, come on. Of course.
I don't know the name watch.
You're amazing. With vintage watches, as most people that have been around the block in the watch world know, condition and health of the watch is sort of everything.
Vintage watches, vintage issues.
Exactly. And the horror scenario is you find a watch, you love the way it looks, but you have no idea what the internals are like, and you're not exactly sure because you don't have the expertise in all these different watch brands to go, that's not an original crown, or that's a updated dial, or that's not an original clasp or pin buckle or what have you. Unless you do, in which case you're like hyper focused and this is sort of your jam, this is your world. That is not me. Right? I knew I wanted a vintage watch, but I don't have the time or the mileage to sink into becoming an expert in all vintage Longines watches or what have you, right? Fill in the brand. Doesn't matter. That was my concern. My concern was I surprised my wife with this idea that I'd like to get this watch on the trip, and then we do, and then it breaks, and now it's a whole slew of issues. It's like buying a car that turns out to be a lemon, and you just keep sinking money into it to salvage it.
And there's a fear that some vintage watches the company doesn't make parts for anymore.
Totally.
Or they're just like, hey, we're not going to service this watch. Or potentially they do, but it costs as much or more than you spent on the watch in the first place.
Right.
And it's going to take like 25 weeks or something like that.
Exactly.
Which are just, that's unfortunate if that happens, right? And
100%.
it does happen. It happens a lot, actually.
100%. The thing that, to answer your question, the thing that brought me inner peace and gave me confidence to actually, quote unquote, pull the trigger and get the watch was twofold. One, I had to establish an amount of money that we were willing to go, you know what? We thought we bought something. It turns out it's not healthy. It's not good. It needs a lot of service. Let's just call it a wash. So establishing that number and be like, we're okay with essentially burning.
Yeah, you're gambling.
Kind of like
a little bit.
burning this amount of money.
Sure.
And it's not great, right? You don't want that to happen because we work hard for our money.
Of course.
And we don't want to buy crappy things. But establishing that was really key. And we're like, I think $1,000 is the max. But that was step one, is establishing like, if this thing like implodes tomorrow, are we okay with losing that kind of money? And the second thing that made me feel really good and ultimately sealed the deal was Frollo themselves offer a 2-year warranty.
Oh, awesome.
Which again, for vintage watches is kind of rare.
Extremely.
Right? I mean, again, now that you have the context of who they are, it makes sense for them to be able to feel confident enough and stand behind their work to say, hey, 2 years, you buy a watch from us, you're going to be set. Doesn't matter. What happens, we got you covered. Because they stand behind their work and they believe that, everything that they do is intentional, and everything that they do buy is thoroughly looked over beforehand. So they know what they're signing up for. Now, that 2-year warranty, you might ask yourself, like, okay, cool, but like, when are you going to go back to Venice? Which is exactly what I told him. I was like, Tommaso, I love that. That's amazing. That gives me peace of mind. But like, don't get me wrong. I'd love to be like, oh, shucks, got to go back to Venice.
Let's go. We got to get a watch fixed.
Yeah. It's a hard life, but someone's got to do it, right? That doesn't happen. It's expensive. Like, flights are expensive. Also work, right? Like,
time,
schedules, all that jazz. Yeah. He's like, oh, no. Our warranty that we provide is international. So if something happens with the watch, you let me know, and I will find a watchmaker that we trust in your region.
Cool.
And we will ship you a label, and you will send the watch to that watchmaker, and they will work on the watch, and then they'll send it back to you.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Just like that. And like, again, that's not something that I even knew existed up until kind, intelligent, professional people were like, we can offer you this. So step one, establish a budget that you feel okay with essentially having it evaporate instantly if things go south.
You got to accept that risk.
Got to accept the risk. And two, to make you feel better, find watchmakers or dealers or sellers or what have you, outlets that provide peace of mind and some sort of protection for you if things do go south.
Absolutely. I think like trusting the person you're doing business with and trusting that establishment, that's cannot be understated how important that is just for your reassurance, whether it's a brand new watch or a vintage watch or whatever. Like, you need to feel good about supporting this place and wanting to go back, because it might happen with a brand new watch under warranty.
Totally.
It happens, right? These are, mechanical devices. Stuff happens. That's why there is warranties. But you want to make sure, like, okay, I know I can call so-and-so, or I can show up at their shop and talk to them. Like, so, I mean, that you had that experience, that's like,
it's priceless,
as good as the watch almost.
Yeah.
Like, super cool. And that you got it from Oisin O'Malley is also really cool.
Yeah. I mean, you like him, you know him, yes?
I don't know him.
Well,
but I love him.
You know of him.
No, I'm kidding. No, I like the guy. I don't know.
No, you've said, hey, did you see this latest video? And, he does some great work.
I like his perspective on watches.
Yeah. So, like, I was grateful that he shared that information. Without that, I would not have probably have walked into that specific store.
Of course.
And I would not have had this amazing conversation with a 24-year-old who is a watchmaker who is so passionate about the industry and the craft in and of itself. To find out that there are 6 generations of previous watchmakers that, part of the family that run the business. All of that just made the whole experience so much more special and memorable. And honestly, very rarely do all the Tetris pieces fall into place to like give you that, experience that you're seeking, But this was one of those like happy stories where it was a tiny shop and it was cramped and it was exactly what I envisioned in my mind, where it's like kind of hard to walk around because it is a working space, but they, sell what they work on, and it's very Italian and very hands-on and very intimate in many ways.
Very Italian.
Very Italian. And, have them stand behind the work and be like, if you buy a watch from us for 2 years, you are covered no matter where you are in the world.
That's awesome.
That's the kind of people that we are. So that was magical, and well worth, the whole visit to like trying to find the place and walking in and waiting outside and not having enough space and all that. It was part of the experience, and I'll remember it forever.
Super cool.
Yeah. So Diver 65, Black Bay 58, 925, and the Longines Conquest vintage piece. I think those are all the pieces that have entered the collection this year. Because we already talked about the Pepsi and the OP turquoise, because that happened in March.
That was the same month?
Yes.
Crazy.
Well, it was within 2 weeks.
Wow.
So that was a very expensive month.
Nah.
But it was epic. It was absolutely epic.
But you've had some good loaners too.
Yes.
You got some.
Technically, I have one on right now.
Yeah. I've been really admiring that one.
You like it?
Yeah, I like it much more than I actually thought I would.
Viewers may not be able to see it because maybe video. It is the Christopher Ward the 12 in titanium with the astral blue dial. It has a date complication and 40 mil.
Is it true that it's called the 12 because it has 12 hours?
Nobody knows.
Okay.
No one truly knows. But could be.
Is it because they made 12 of them?
I'm not sure. That could also
make
be
another couple thousand.
Potentially. Add a couple zeros to the end of that. This is a loaner from Christopher Ward, who were kind enough to send me this piece for a video that I want to make. By the time this podcast episode comes out, I believe that video will be up on my YouTube channel, maybe. But this is not what I had on the Italy trip, which I had mentioned earlier.
That's right.
Longines wasn't the only watch that I wore.
I'll cut you off.
That's fine. It was a good detour. It was a needed detour. The other watch, really the only watch that I had on my person outside of the Longines, which again was added while on the trip,
right, was
the Maurice Lacroix Aikon Skeleton. It was 39 mil stainless steel bracelet, 200 meter water resistant screw down crown, time only, but skeletonized.
Yeah.
So I had this idea, and I am actively editing that video, which again will probably be live on my YouTube channel before this podcast.
You can see it now. ML in front of the Colosseum. ML in front of the Vatican.
If you
meeting the Pope. ML.
Fist bumping the Pope.
Yeah.
With the ML on. I mean,
you wrist shotting the Pope. Each of you putting the hand in.
Hey, he's a cool guy.
I bet.
He's a cool guy.
Yeah.
What you're talking about is watching my stories on Instagram. So that's why you know all the things.
Okay, fair.
Because as I was gallivanting all around Italy, I was posting up a bunch of photos and stories of the Maurice Lacroix Aikon Skeleton. A couple weeks before our trip, I had this idea of what if for every future trip that I go on, I have what I would call a companion watch. You handle watches every day. And we literally, in this very conversation, had discussed how it's different, right? Owning a watch, wearing it on your wrist for an extended period of time in different scenarios, doing different things. When a brand sends you a watch, I think it's one thing to kind of have it around your house, your studio, whatever your setup is as a quote unquote content creator in the watchmaking space. That is one experience. My idea for a traveling companion watch is I get a watch that is not mine, that I take with me on an adventure. And I would experience temporary ownership of this timepiece while out and about doing things that normally or otherwise I wouldn't do.
Yeah. I mean, especially on vacation too, it's very different, not just environment, but like your life is different. You're not working.
Completely. Exactly.
Not going to the same grocery store.
I'm not desk diving.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to Costco.
Yeah.
Or Home Depot.
Sure.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
So thankfully, Andre from Maurice Lacroix loved the idea. So I reached out to him. I pitched him the idea, and he's like, "Yeah, what do you want? What do you want to take on this adventure?"
Subject line: Be my companion.
Be my companion, Conor, on the next trip.
Yeah.
I said the Icon 39 skeleton. Because
you wanted that one specifically.
I wanted that one specifically. Okay. Yeah.
Why that one?
Great question.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I've not had an extended period of time spent with a skeletonized watch. And I wanted to see if it's something that I would be into. And the 39 mil also screw down crown gave me that sense of security and just peace of mind, really. When anyone loans you a watch, you treat it even more carefully than your own watches.
I would hope so.
You treat it with respect and care because this is something that someone entrusted you with, right? So I really wanted that like screw down crown and steel bracelet.
Yeah.
So I could take it with me and just experience what it's like to have a skeletonized watch for an extended period of time. And also, like, I've just sort of started diving into the world of Maurice Lacroix, and that seemed like the icon seemed like their icon within their product portfolio. And so they have different sizes. I know they have a 42 mil as well, standard dial, not skeletonized. But I went for the 39 because, again, I wanted to experience what it's like to have a skeletonized watch for an extended period of time. And also I felt that for my wrist, 39 mil worked better. So luckily, Andre was super down with the idea. He was happy to send it along. I got the watch. I got it sized. And it was my companion watch for the trip. And so I wore it every day while on vacation for 2 weeks and change.
Did I size that watch for you?
Yes, you did.
Oh, okay, cool.
That's why I gave you the look.
Okay, I thought so.
Podcast listeners won't know, but people watching the video may have picked up on the little look that I gave you.
It sized very easily.
Does it?
Yeah, no problems.
Good. So I wore that for 2.5 weeks all throughout Italy. So the Maurice Lacroix Aikon 39 Skeleton. And I will say this, it'll be in the video, obviously, because thoughts, feelings, emotions I'll be sharing. But the cliff notes are, I really liked the watch when I got it.
Good.
Great size, fit my wrist beautifully. The bracelet was legitimately like jewelry. I really liked it. Did not pinch, did not pull any hairs. Really, it has a butterfly clasp, very discreet M logo right on the center, and it was comfortable. It felt solid. I felt secure with it. Again, screw down crown, 200 meter water resistance. It felt like a solid, well built watch. And my initial reaction was, it's really difficult for me to quickly tell the time.
I was just about to ask you, the most common complaint remark with skeleton watches is really, really freaking cool, pretty low score when it comes to legibility, especially when you're just like...
Yep. That was a little bit of my experience in the beginning.
Yeah.
But
learning
again,
a new thing.
Exactly. Yeah. But wearing it for... I think by day 3, it was not an issue for me anymore.
You could read it quickly. And
I could read it quickly.
To you, yeah.
Yes. But I also am not, I will say on the record that unless I'm doing something that is time critical, which I rarely do in my day-to-day life, I have my technical digital things to keep me on track and on time. Unless I'm doing something that's hyper time sensitive, it's not imperative for me to be able to tell the time within 0.5 seconds when I look at my watch.
Sure, you're not.
I can take 2 seconds, maybe 3 even, to admire, absorb, and take in the goodness. And then also be like,
Living a life of luxury with your 3 seconds right staring at your watch.
All right then. I make up for it in other ways. So, very quick eater. I eat very quick. So that's how I make up for the time. That's not true. I don't eat fast.
No, it's true.
But it was
like Kirby.
Okay. I did finish my meal before you did today.
It was delicious pasta.
I'm glad you like it.
I did.
We had dinner together. I made Conor pasta for those that are wondering, and it was great.
Yeah.
Dinner amongst
friends.
A lot
of candles to lit. I was actually a little surprised by that, but I mean, homemade pasta, who's whatever, you know?
I know you're saying that as a bit, but there was one candle on the table. It wasn't lit, though.
Not a bit.
What else was I saying? Yes, the Icon. Loved it. Had a great time. I actually texted Andre when I sent it back, and I said, it's rare for me to miss a watch, but I feel like something is missing from my collection.
Did you do that, like, waving the scarf goodbye thing as, like, the UPS truck backed away or whatever?
FedEx. Oh, my God. No, it's arrivederci. Come on.
It's whatever.
It's arrivederci.
It's whatever it is in Swiss. Is it a Swiss brand?
It is a Swiss brand, yeah. Yeah, it's a Swiss brand. But arrivederci because Italy. And, Okay.
Yeah.
So that was the other watch that I spent a good amount of time with. And the other loaner is this Christopher Ward 12 that we briefly talked about in the beginning, which is still...
That has been so eye-catching to me.
Yeah, you keep looking at it.
It's really good looking, man.
Yeah. What stands out to you?
I think it's...
We're kind of segueing now from watches to...
I think part of it is the separation, like the color separation from like the very gunmetal titanium to how you have this cool blue ombre dial, right? Where it's going from a dark to a lighter shade.
Dark on the outside, light on the inner.
Yeah. And then the high polish on the indexes and hands and everything. I like there's like very minimal font. It just says chronometer and says made or whatever. I right away I told you I like I think it's like a step above when the date background matches, especially when it's, it's not just black white, right? Like it's clearly made for this dial.
Yeah.
It's not just like a blue either. It's this blue. It makes the date window look more slick. Again, kind of cuts down on legibility a little bit, but it's a date function. You can take 2 seconds to look.
Sometimes I take 3, like I said.
Sometimes you do. I love how thin it is. It even looks good the way you wear your watch, which is like a noose.
It's not a noose. It is secure to my wrist, and it does not bounce, wiggle, or jostle about. It doesn't cut off blood circulation, but you can tell that I wore a watch.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, you can.
Just a little bit.
Because of the ridiculous indents in your skin.
There's no indents. That's just muscle.
You can read Christopher Ward on your skin.
Pure muscle. That just says pure muscle.
It does say pure muscle. No, I don't know. I'm drawn to this watch. This brand has so much hype that you never know what to expect.
Yeah.
And we talked before about the Bel Canto and other Christopher Ward watches that are objectively very cool. Not personally huge into this one. I get it. It's like 4K.
Not even close.
Really?
Yeah, it is. On the bracelet,
$10,000.
Oh, no. We're going the wrong way. The Bel Canto is...
That's 4K.
That's around 4. This is $1,800 in change.
That's a good deal.
On the titanium bracelet, yeah. I think it's around like $1,500 or $1,600 on
bracelet?
Yeah, if you get it on the rubber, it's actually like $1,500 or $1,600 US dollars. Yeah.
Good watch.
Okay, well.
Good watch.
Hold on. Well, I gotta spend some more time with it, but
you're right.
So
it's a watch.
TBD.
It's a watch.
No, it's
no.
Okay.
You haven't spent enough time with it.
All right, fine.
Don't you dare make an assumption.
I've been impressed by it, and you know me in titanium.
Yeah.
I love me titanium.
Moth to flame.
Yeah, basically. But that's about everything that I've had. There is one more thing that I will potentially get sent to me, but it's not.
Different brand we haven't talked about yet?
Different brand we have not talked about just yet. It is very British. So I'll say that.
Very British.
Very British. I mean...
Union Jack watches. Cup OT watches.
What is it? Beans on toast?
Yeah, mushy peas.
And mushy peas. Heck yeah, and shepherd's pie. That is all I've got. Couple pieces. So my first used watch that I purchased, my first vintage watch that I purchased while on a trip, 2 loaners so far, the Maurice Lacroix and the Christopher Ward, the 12, and I won a watch in a raffle.
Bloody hell, man.
Yeah.
Cool way to grow the collection.
Thank you.
All of them.
Unexpected twists and turns, but it's all been very enjoyable and very fun so far. And yeah, I mean, I had the 3 watches on the list, and I'm so glad that I was able to get the 925. And now we have 2 others, the Sartori Biard, potentially in the future, and the Grand Seiko Snowflake. SBGA-211.
Obviously.
Not that I know all these things, but for the watches that I do care about, I do learn the
You've looked at that list plenty of times.
You know it. You know it. Take us out, Sam. I just always wanted to say that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Is it play us out, Sam?
Yeah, I think it's play us out, Sam. What is that even from?
I think it's from maybe Broadway, maybe some musical shows.
Good Morning Vietnam.
Maybe. Are you Robin Williams now?
Yes.
I like it. Okay. Thank you, everyone. We'll chat soon. I'm going to cut this stuff out.
Yeah, cool.
Bye.
Bye.
That concludes this episode of the Timist Podcast Series. A sincere thank you for hanging out with us. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, then please push all the buttons that will help you hear more of us in the future. If you'd like to continue the conversation, you can either drop a comment on the associated YouTube video or reach out to me on Instagram at TheTimistIG. Thanks for listening. I'm The Timist. Be well, and I'll catch you in the next one.